We've got some breaking news to bring you now. It's sad news. Chuck Norris, the film star, has died.
Norris became known for his work in martial arts films before rocketing to stardom with the title role on the hit 90s series Walker, Texas Ranger.
March 19th, 2026, Hawaii. Chuck Norris, 86, unstoppable in legend, is gone.
Family of Chuck Norris saying that the Walker, Texas Ranger star has died at the age of 86.
9 days earlier, he was training, throwing punches with a precision most athletes half his age could only dream of. The world knew him as a martial artist, an actor, a living symbol of invincibility. But the truth? The real Chuck Norris was far more extraordinary, a boy from Oklahoma who lost everything, rebuilt himself from nothing, and became a man the world could never forget. Today, we're not just remembering the icon. We're tracing the journey from that overlooked boy to the unstoppable force he became. This is the untold story of Chuck Norris, the man behind the myth. In December 2025, just 3 months before his own death, Chuck Norris lost his first wife, Diane Holchek. She was 84, and they had been high school sweethearts in Torrance, California, married when she was 17 and he was 18, just as he was entering the Air Force. They had 2 sons together, Mike, who became an actor, and Eric, who became a NASCAR driver. Their marriage did not survive Hollywood. Norris later admitted he had fathered a daughter outside the marriage in 1962, a secret that stayed hidden for years. The strain of his rising fame, the separations, the infidelity, it broke the relationship. They divorced, and that wound, the failure of his first family, stayed with him for the rest of his life. He wrote about it in his memoirs, not with excuses, with accountability. He called it the greatest regret of his life. He said his faith, a personal Christianity that he arrived at in midlife, was what helped him reckon with the damage he had caused and find a way to live with it. In 1998, he married model Gina O'Kelly. They had twins, Dakota and Danilee. And this time, Norris did something that surprised everyone who knew him from the action hero era. He stepped away. When Gina suffered a serious health crisis after an MRI procedure,
gadolinium, commonly used in MRIs to improve clarity, poisoned his wife Gina.
She said the gadolinium contrast dye left her with debilitating symptoms. Norris largely retired from acting to care for her. He said publicly that he would give up his career 100 times over for his wife. He lost his mother in 2024. He lost Diane in December 2025. By the time he celebrated that final birthday in March, though the man the world saw throwing punches in the Hawaiian sun had already been carrying grief most people knew nothing about. And somewhere along the way, something else began to happen. Something darker and more telling about how the world saw him. False rumors of his death began to spread online. One post would go viral, then another. Headlines that were never real. Posts that were never verified. A man who had become a symbol of invincibility was suddenly the subject of repeated hoaxes, as if even the internet struggled to accept that he was human, aging, and mortal. Each time, the truth was the same. He was alive. But the rumors revealed something deeper, not about the man, but about the myth the world had built around him, a myth so powerful that people didn't just admire him. They started to believe he couldn't die at all. And that is the real Chuck Norris. Not invincible, not untouchable. A man who made mistakes, who lost people, who grieved privately while the world made jokes about his immortality. The empire and the power. But that is not where the story begins either. To understand the weight of what he was carrying at the end, you have to understand what he built. Walker, Texas Ranger, ran from 1993 to 2001.
In 1993, he debuted his most well-known role, Walker, Texas Ranger.
8 seasons, over 200 episodes, one of the most successful action series in television history. Norris played Cordell Walker, a Texas Ranger who fought crime across Dallas and the Lone Star State, with a combination of martial arts, moral certainty, and the kind of quiet authority that made audiences feel like justice was a real thing. The show was enormous. It ran on CBS during prime time, was syndicated globally, and made Norris a household name for an entirely new generation of viewers who had never seen his films. Norris was nominated for a TV Guide Award as Favorite Actor in a Drama in 1999. The show spawned a made-for-TV movie after its run and was eventually adapted into a short-lived reboot. But nothing captured what made the original work, because what made it work was him. That unironic sincerity, that willingness to play it completely straight, no matter how absurd the premise. Walker fought drug dealers, rescued kidnapped children, defended Native American rights, and delivered roundhouse kicks to the face of evil. And not once, in 8 seasons, did the show wink at the audience. It meant every word. He meant every word. His brother Aaron produced many of the episodes and several of his films. So the Norris operation was a family business in the truest sense. Tight, loyal, built on blood and trust. Beyond television, Norris built a financial empire estimated between $70 and $100 million at the time of his death. He wrote roughly 10 books, martial arts manuals, memoirs, novels, a political manifesto called Black Belt Patriotism that hit the New York Times bestseller list.
Chuck Norris owns enough black belts to circle the earth 11 times.
He launched a nationally syndicated health and fitness column. He founded Sea-Force Bottling Company with Gina after they discovered a natural aquifer on their Texas ranch. He appeared in global advertising campaigns for T-Mobile, Toyota, World of Warcraft, and Fiat. He founded the United Fighting Arts Federation, which has awarded more than 3,300 black belts worldwide under his system. He created Kickstart Kids, a martial arts program for at-risk youth in Texas public schools. He established philanthropies for children and veterans. He was quietly, consistently generous in ways that never made headlines. And then there were the memes. The Chuck Norris facts phenomenon. Chuck Norris counted to infinity. Twice. Chuck Norris does not sleep. He waits. Chuck Norris kills 100% of germs. Became one of the internet's earliest viral sensations. It spread to every country, every language, every corner of online culture. It turned a retired action star into something that had never existed before. A living, breathing, universally recognized symbol of exaggerated human capability. And Norris, to his credit, embraced it completely. He published the official Chuck Norris Fact Book, admixing his favorite internet jokes.
And these are the Chuck Norris books.
With real stories from his life. He appeared in self-aware commercials and cameos that played directly off the mythology. He understood, perhaps better than any celebrity of his generation, that culture is a conversation. And the best thing you can do is laugh along. The rise of a legend. But to understand the empire, you have to understand the climb. And the climb was not glamorous. Norris made his film debut as an uncredited extra, a bodyguard in a 1968 Dean Martin movie called The Wrecking Crew. He got to fight Dean Martin on screen. Nobody noticed. His big break came in 1972, when Bruce Lee cast him as the villain in The Way of the Dragon. Their fight scene in the Roman Colosseum is one of the most famous martial arts sequences in cinema history. Lee kills Norris's character, but the scene made Norris a star. Not because he won, but because he was credible enough to stand across from Bruce Lee and make the audience believe the fight could go either way. After Lee's death in 1973,
on July 20th, 1973, Bruce Lee died tragically at the age of 32.
Norris navigated Hollywood on his own terms. He was not a natural actor. He knew that. He once told an interviewer that Steve McQueen, who had been one of his karate students, encouraged him to try acting and told him that if he applied himself the way he did martial arts, he might have a chance. Norris took that advice literally. He treated acting the way he treated a championship fight: preparation, repetition, discipline. His first leading role came in 1977 with Breaker, a low-budget trucker film. It was not art, but it made money. And in the late 70s and through the 80s, Norris became one of the most prolific action stars in Hollywood. Good Guys Wear Black, The Octagon, Lone Wolf McQuade, Code of Silence, the Missing in Action trilogy, the Delta Force films. He made 8 movies for Cannon Films in 4 years. He was their biggest star. In 2012, after years away from the screen, he returned for The Expendables 2 alongside Stallone, Schwarzenegger, Willis, Van Damme, and Jet Li, a reunion of action legends that felt like a curtain call for an entire era. It was a global hit, and Norris fit right in because he had never stopped being the guy. The beard was grayer, the punches were slower, but the sincerity was exactly the same. He did not have the humor of Schwarzenegger, or the vulnerability of Bruce Willis, or the acrobatic grace of Jackie Chan. He had something else, an absolute, unshakable sincerity. When Norris played a hero, you believed he meant it. There was no wink at the camera, no ironic distance. He was, as the New York Times wrote after his death, the solid fellow who did not look for trouble until the bad guys left him no choice. And for a generation of moviegoers who wanted their heroes uncomplicated and righteous, that was enough. That was more than enough. The birth of a warrior. But none of that happens without what came before. And what came before Hollywood was a decade of fighting. Norris joined the U.S. Air Force in 1958 and was stationed at Osan Air Base in South Korea. That is where he got the nickname Chuck. His real name was Carlos Ray Norris. And that is where he discovered Tang Soo Do, a Korean martial art that would change the entire trajectory of his life. He trained obsessively. See, when he returned to the States and left the service, he needed students to pay the bills. So he started competing and winning. He won the professional middleweight karate championship and held it for 6 consecutive years, retiring undefeated. Black Belt magazine inducted him into their Hall of Fame with a 10th degree black belt, the highest honor in the discipline. He taught karate to some of the most famous people in America. Steve McQueen trained with him. Priscilla Presley trained with him. The Osmonds trained with him. Bob Barker trained with him, and later joked about the cracked ribs Norris gave him during a session. His friendship with Bruce Lee began in martial arts circles before either of them was famous. They sparred, they talked about philosophy, they respected each other as fighters first. And that mutual respect is what made their Coliseum fight scene in The Way of the Dragon so electric. It was not choreography pretending to be combat. It was 2 real martial artists performing at the edge of their ability and the making of a legend. And now, we go all the way back to where it really started, to the part of the story that explains everything. Carlos Ray Norris was born on March 10, 1940, in Ryan, Oklahoma.
Born in 1940 in Ryan, Oklahoma, just north of the Texas border.
A town of fewer than 1,000 people, deep in the southern plains, where the wind carried dust and the economy carried nothing. He came into the world a blue baby, oxygen-deprived at birth, named after Carlos Berry, his father's minister. His father, Ray Norris, was a mechanic, bus driver, and truck driver with Cherokee and Irish heritage. His mother, Wilma Scarberry, was a homemaker. Chuck was the oldest of 3 boys. His younger brothers were Wieland and Aaron. The family was dirt poor. Not figuratively, literally. By the time Carlos was 15, the Norris family had moved 16 times, chasing low-rent housing from one town to the next. His father struggled with alcoholism, the kind that does not announce itself with drama, but erodes a household slowly, quietly, until one day the foundation is gone. His parents divorced when he was 16. Ray Norris walked out and largely disappeared from his sons' lives. Wilma and the boys went on welfare. For years, they did not have 2 nickels to rub together. Wilma moved the family first to Prairie Village, Kansas, and then to Torrance, California, looking for a fresh start. Carlos enrolled at North Torrance High School. And here is the part that matters most, because it is the hardest part to reconcile with the man the world eventually came to know. He described himself, in a 1988 interview with the Los Angeles Times, as slightly built, non-athletic, and shy to the point of being neurotic. That is his own language, not the quiet and confident kind of shy, the invisible kind, the kid who never excelled at anything in school, the kid with no particular talent that anyone, including himself, could identify. He helped his mother raise his 2 younger brothers, not because he was heroic, but because there was nobody else to do it. There was no mentor, no coach who saw potential, no movie moment where someone pulled him aside and said, "Kid, you have got something special." The childhood heroes he clung to were cowboys on screen: Roy Rogers, Gene Autry, John Wayne, Hopalong Cassidy. Men who represented a version of strength and justice that did not exist in his real life. He dreamed of becoming a police officer, but when he graduated high school, he was too young to join the force. So he enlisted in the Air Force instead. It was 1958. He was 18 years old, newly married to his high school sweetheart, Diane Holchek. She was 17. And he had no plan beyond getting out of Torrance and finding something to do with his life. He was shipped to Osan Air Base in South Korea as an air policeman, essentially a military cop stationed in a country still rebuilding from war. And it was there, on the other side of the world, that he faced the simplest choice of his life. He could hang around the barracks playing cards and boozing it up, or he could walk into a dojang and learn something. He chose the dojang. He chose Tang Soo Do. And within 6 months, something began to shift. Not just in his body, but in the architecture of who he was. Every roundhouse kick, every championship belt, every movie poster, on every television season, every meme, every joke about his invincibility, all of it traces back to that choice. A shy kid from a broken home in rural Oklahoma, standing in a training hall in South Korea, learning for the first time in his life what it felt like to be good at something. Learning for the first time that discipline could replace the chaos his childhood had taught him to expect. That is the foundation of the Chuck Norris story. Not toughness, not fame, not the myth. The foundation is a boy the world did not notice who decided, one quiet afternoon in a foreign country, to stop being invisible. And so, the sun sets over Kauai, and the punches have stopped. The world mourns the legend. The memes fade. The movie lights dim. But the story of Chuck Norris, the man beneath the myth, is far from finished. Every belt he earned, and every fight he survived, every sacrifice he made, every choice he wrestled through in silence, carved a path that reshaped what it means to fight, to endure, and to rise. The world saw an icon, Few ever glimpsed the full measure of the man, the boy who had nothing, the man who gave everything, the father, husband, and fighter who refused to be defined by circumstance. His legacy is not in the punches or the movie roles or the jokes that circulated across the globe. His legacy is in the discipline, the courage, the relentless will to show up when the world expected him to fall. And now, as the echoes of his story reverberate, we are left with a question that haunts every legend. What happens when the quietest, strongest force you've ever known leaves a mark so deep that even time cannot erase it? Who will rise to meet it next? Who carries the fire forward, knowing the standard has been set impossibly high? Because Chuck Norris didn't just level up himself, he raised the bar for all who follow. And the world, the arena, and the human spirit itself are watching, waiting for the next chapter.